You've done it again. You're standing directly in front of someone. You know exactly who they are. You know where you met them. You remember what they were wearing that first night, what they said about their sister, the joke they told about their dog. You remember everything about them, except their name. And in the 2 seconds you have to say it out loud, your brain produces nothing. Just a small, humiliating silence. You've probably been quietly telling yourself for years that this means something is wrong with you. It doesn't. It means something specific and almost universally misunderstood. If you're a person who forgets names easily while remembering almost everything else about the people who hold them, the psychology underneath what you've been doing isn't a memory problem, and it isn't a character flaw. It's a documented cognitive pattern, and the people who run it are usually the same people who are unusually good at reading rooms, tracking emotional undercurrents, and remembering the things about a person that actually matter. The name isn't what got forgotten. The name was the one thing your brain filed as forgettable. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Names are almost information-free. 2 people can have the same name and share nothing else. Your brain, when it encounters a new person, receives a flood of high-signal data: face, voice, story, mannerisms, the specific weight of who they are in the moment you're meeting them. And at the same time, it receives the name, a small arbitrary sound the person was assigned at birth by parents who didn't know them yet. Your brain files everything by importance. The rich data gets rich storage. The arbitrary sound gets whatever storage is left. This isn't a flaw. It's the way an efficient associative brain organizes information. Names have almost no meaning, which means they have almost no anchors to attach to. The face has 100 anchors. The story has 100 more. The name has 1. The person's identity. And even that connection is fragile because it's built on arbitrary sound rather than meaning. You aren't forgetting the person. You're releasing the least informative piece of data your brain received about them. Psychologists Gillian Cohen and Deborah Faulkner, in a 1986 study that has become foundational in memory research, documented what they called the Baker/Baker paradox. When people were shown the same face and told either that the person was named Baker or that they were a baker, the participants who learned the occupation remembered it far more reliably than the participants who learned the name. Same word, same face, same person. The occupation was easier to remember because it connected to a network of meaning: bread, ovens, aprons, early mornings. The name was harder to remember because it connected to nothing. It was just the sound Baker attached to a face. Belgian psychologist Serge Bredart's research on proper name retrieval confirmed and extended this. Names live in a specific neural region that is unusually vulnerable to retrieval failure, even in healthy adults, even when everything else about a person is remembered clearly. This is why the tip of the tongue moment happens most often with names. The name isn't gone. It's just filed in a region that doesn't return calls. Think about a funeral. When you leave one, what do you remember? You remember the smell of the flowers, the light through the stained glass, something one person said at the microphone that made everyone in the room breathe out at the same time, the colour of the coffin, the particular way the mother's hands moved when she stood up. What you don't remember, almost never, is what was written on the order of service. Names are the order of service. Everything else about a person is the funeral. The rich, textured, meaning-dense information stays. The typed name on the printed paper doesn't. This isn't disrespect. This is what a brain does when it's paying attention to what actually matters. The person who remembers every name easily is running a different filing system, one that treats names as important because they've made a deliberate effort to make them important. That's a real skill. It just isn't a moral one. But here's where it gets interesting. The people who forget names easily tend to be highly associative thinkers. Their brains organize the world by meaning, connection, and pattern, rather than by discrete label. This is the cognitive style behind good storytelling, good emotional attunement, and good pattern recognition across domains. The trade-off is that the same brain, prioritizing meaning, treats non-meaningful information as low priority, which names by their nature almost always are. But there's more going on than just cognitive style. The moment you meet someone, your brain is doing enormous parallel processing, reading their face, calibrating their tone, tracking their body language, filing what they say, evaluating whether you want to know them more. In the middle of all that, the name arrives once, briefly, in a moment when almost all your attention is being spent elsewhere. Most people would need to hear the name 3 or 4 times to lock it in. Most social introductions give you the name exactly once, and here's the kicker. The cultural framing of forgetting names has been almost entirely as rudeness. It signals you weren't paying attention. It signals the person didn't matter. It signals you're self-absorbed. None of these are true. In most cases, forgetting a name signals the exact opposite. You were paying so much attention to who the person actually was that the name got lost in the flood of everything else you were noticing. Now let's be honest, there's a version of a name forgetting that's genuinely clinical. It's called nameanomia, and it's usually gradual, progressive, and paired with other memory difficulties. Forgetting recent conversations, losing track of familiar routines, struggling to retrieve common words as well as names. If your name forgetting fits that pattern, that's worth a doctor's attention. But if you're just forgetting names in the way this video has been describing, with everything else about the person intact and available, you're running the normal version. You've probably been running it since you were young. It isn't a warning sign, it's a filing system. But for the person watching this and quietly recognizing themselves, the one who has spent years apologizing for forgetting names while remembering everything else, here's what's happening. You aren't rude, you aren't self-absorbed, you aren't losing your memory. You're someone whose brain treats meaning-dense information as high signal and arbitrary sound as low signal, which is exactly what an efficient associative brain does. The names slip because they're the least useful piece of data your brain has about the person. Everything else stays. The work isn't to become better at names. If it matters to you, use repetition and association tricks. But the pattern isn't a defect. It's a report on what your brain has decided is worth holding on to. There's something quietly true about a person who forgets names and remembers everything else. They tend to be highly associative thinkers, better suited to storytelling, to emotional attunement, to the kind of pattern recognition that lets a person read a room before the room knows it's being read. The name was always the least of it. The name was the arbitrary sound their parents assigned them before they'd done a single thing worth remembering. Everything the person has become since then is what your brain actually filed. If you've spent years being quietly embarrassed about the pattern you run, this might be the moment to consider that the pattern isn't disrespect. It's the specific signature of a brain that pays attention to the parts of a person that were actually worth paying attention to. You're not rude. You're not self-absorbed. You're not losing your memory. You're someone whose brain files meaning above arbitrary sound. And the fact that you can't retrieve a person's name says almost nothing about how deeply you actually saw them. If you're the person I've been describing for the last 8 minutes, the one who has quietly worried for years that forgetting names means you're a bad friend, an unfocused colleague, or a self-absorbed person, I want you to hear this. Nothing is wrong with you. The people you've been remembering, in every way except their name, have been more seen by you than most name rememberers manage to see anyone. The name isn't the person. The person is what you already remember. If any part of this landed for you, I'd love to know. Tell me in the comments about a time you forgot someone's name but remembered something specific about them that other people never noticed. I read the comments. If you want more videos that name what's actually happening in the patterns most people never have the language for, that's what this channel is for. Hit subscribe. See you in the next.